First step in the marshmallow making process is to bloom our gelatin. So I have powdered gelatin here and cold water, and all I want to do is sprinkle the gelatin over the water and let it absorb. I'm going to stir this up until all that gelatin is mixed in. And we're going to let this sit for a good 15 minutes. So blooming will help soften the gelatin, and so then we will melt it and be able to thicken our marshmallows. Make sure all of the gelatin is absorbed into the water. We don't want any undissolved pieces of gelatin. So that looks good. We're going to let that sit. The next step for our marshmallows is to make our sugar syrup solution. So I have the other half of water right here, and I have corn syrup that I want to place into the water. Make sure you scrape all of it out of the bowl. And then we will place our sugar. It's more helpful if you place the liquid ingredients first and then the sugar, so that none of the sugar sticks to the bottom of the pan. I want to make sure I mix it up very gently till all the sugar is moistened, and then I'm going to turn this on, let it dissolve on medium heat, and then turn it up so it will boil, and we're going to cook this to starting at 230, finishing it at 245 degrees. Alongside this, I have my water and my pastry brush to brush down the sides. So when this starts boiling, I will make sure that I have no undissolved sugar crystals. Once you see the sugar at a rapid boil, you want to take your water and brush down the sides. Just once should be sufficient, but make sure, please, you do get every little bit of undissolved sugar. And you can see now the sugar is clear. We want to cook this to 230 degrees and then turn on our egg whites, which is in my mixing bowl fitted with a whip. And then we will whip the egg whites while the sugar continues to cook to 245 degrees. My sugar is at 230, so I'm going to turn on my mixer with my egg whites. And because there's such a small amount, I'm going to help my mixer by lifting it up. Now I have a 6-quart bowl. If you have a smaller bowl, it should be no problem at all. This recipe will make a quarter-size sheet pan, 12 by 8, so we will prepare that shortly. We're going to whip this until my sugar gets to 245. It should start to have a white foam, and then I will show you the technique of pouring the sugar in. This is about halfway. You can still see there's a little bit of yellow in the bottom of the bowl, but we want it to be a solid white foam. I have my egg whites resting at about speed 6 right now on my machine, so not trying to over whip it and get it dry. My sugar is now at about 242, so just another minute or so and I should be ready to add my sugar syrup. My sugar syrup is at 245 degrees. I'm going to turn my mixer onto the very first speed. I'm going to lean my bowl right on top of the lip of here and pour the sugar in between the whip and the bowl. This is extremely hot, so please make sure you go slow and that you don't pour it into the tines of the whip so that it pushes up against the outside edge of the bowl. You just gently pour it in. Again, using the outside edge of the mixing bowl to hold my pot so that I do not have to worry about the stability. Once this is all poured in, we will turn up the speed of the mixer and it will look much cleaner, shinier, and smoother. While that is mixing, I'm going to heat my gelatin until it's melted and then pour that into the marshmallow mixture. So, in order to get all of the sugar out, I'm going to lift my pot. Do not scrape any sugar out of the pot. We don't want to agitate it. So now I'm ready to turn this up. I'm going to go about speed 4 at the moment, and then we will melt our gelatin. While the meringue mixture is mixing in the mixer, I want to take my gelatin, which has been bloomed, and scrape it into a pot. And then we're going to turn this on a medium heat and let it completely dissolve and actually get warm to the touch. Once it's warm to the touch, we can add that slowly into the mixer along with the meringue to incorporate fully. Once my gelatin is fully dissolved and actually feels warm to the touch, I want to now go ahead and pour this into my meringue mixture. Once again, placing the speed on lowest speed, I can pour my gelatin between the tines of the whip and the side of the bowl in a slow, steady stream. And in this case, you can absolutely scrape the bottom of the pan to get every little bit of gelatin out. If you do not get the gelatin warm enough, you run the risk of it setting too soon in this mixture and becoming very stringy. And we want all of our marshmallow to be able to thicken properly. So now what I'm going to do is turn this up until it's light and fluffy, and we're going to prepare our pan. Using a quarter-sized sheet pan fitted with a half piece of parchment so that I have a little bit of overlap and I can easily remove the marshmallows later on, I'm going to take some cornstarch and gently sift this over the bottom of the parchment paper to make sure that it fully coats it and I don't see any of the paper underneath. If I do, that's a portion where the marshmallow will absolutely stick. This will get brushed off later on, so don't worry about the idea of too much cornstarch. So a gentle coating evenly over the entire thing. Try not to disturb it after you have sifted it, because we don't want any open spaces. There we go. You want to mix this until it's nice and light and fluffy. And I am adding some vanilla paste to it. You can add vanilla extract, you can add a compound flavor, any other flavoring that you would like to add that is more concentrated. So I'm gonna whip that in there, and then we're gonna transfer it to our sheet pan. So I took the marshmallow mixture off of the mixer, and it has a beautiful, almost like a marshmallow cream texture to it. It will eventually set because of the gelatin, but we want to be able to spread it into our pan before it does set. So I'm going to remove the mixture from the bowl. I'm going to take a spatula and just very gently place it all into the sheet pan. It'll require a little bit of spreading, which we're going to use an offset spatula for. And then we allow it to set. This can set at room temperature for 24 hours, or if you're in a rush, you can put it in the refrigerator for about a half an hour before you want to cut it. So with an offset spatula, I'm going to just gently spread it into the corners to make it nice and even. Turning the pan. So if you let it mix too long in the mixer, it'll get too thick and it has a little bit more of a difficult time spreading. Excellent. So we just want to smooth it out as much as possible. And then I'm going to sift a little bit more powdered sugar over the top, so we do not have a sticky surface. Oh, I'm sorry, it's cornstarch. Cornstarch over the top. And this again will get brushed off later on once it is fully set. So just a nice light coating. And there we go. We're gonna let this rest for about 24 hours. My marshmallows have set overnight and it's formed almost like a little crust on top. So it'll be really easy to brush this off. So what we wanna do is just brush all of the excess cornstarch. You can save this because we will need it once we cut the sides that will be exposed and sticky. You're gonna reuse this cornstarch so you don't have to utilize it anymore. So brush this completely off and then we'll remove this from the pan. Now that my top is all brushed off and clean, I'm gonna take a paring knife and score the two side edges. And now my marshmallows should remove themselves from the pan very easily. So it'll seem like it's stuck over here. What you want to do is just take your paring knife and just very gently at an angle, drag it against the edge of the parchment paper. And then it'll release itself from that side of the parchment. And then we should be able to flip this over and peel off the parchment. Because it's not sticky on this side, we can go ahead and flip the marshmallows and then peel off the bottom. If for some reason it does stick slightly, we will be brushing some more cornstarch onto the bottom. Low and slow, go ahead and gently pull the paper back to fully release it from the marshmallow. Any sticky portions that you still have, you can go ahead and place the cornstarch over the top. Go ahead and brush it into the sticky portions and it'll be much easier to handle. Excellent. You can slice from this side or you can flip it and slice from the other side. It is completely your choice. And we're gonna grab a knife and go ahead and slice. In order to slice, you wanna use a chef's knife, and it really does make a difference if you put a little bit of oil. Be very gentle when you do this. A little bit of oil to help prevent it from sticking when you do slice through the marshmallow. Apply the oil once in a while if you need to, but it shouldn't be done every single time. So we wanna go ahead and pick the size of your marshmallow. If you want, nice squares, cut straight down and straight down. Then you can do this along the whole thing. So keep cutting your squares. You can mark them out. You can use cookie cutters, but if you do use cookie cutters, make sure you do use the oil. I'm going to turn these strips this way. And I always like to cut the edge so it's a little cleaner. And then you can go ahead and melt this down and make treats or just use them for your hot chocolate. And go ahead and cut your squares. After you've cut your squares, you will notice that the sides are sticky still. So with your excess cornstarch, take and place all four sides into the cornstarch. And then we will tap this off. So once you feel there's no stickiness, you can just in your hands kind of clap it off, and you'll notice it's just a very, very light coating. And then these can be placed in a bag or a box, and then they won't stick together. So these are our marshmallows.